Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
Happy 2022. What?
That's right. Happy 2022.
And so far for myself, it's starting out amazing. So how are you feeling about it?
I feel really good, actually, really good. The only thing that I have a difficulty with is because I'm in this place where I'm with time and stuff like that. So to say a happy new year,
Yeah,
happy new, I understand and I agree with, but the happy new year, that's just time. Time doesn't really matter anymore. So it's like I'm a little bit like in two different places as far as how I feel with that. Honestly, and it's weird because that's for me to step into my power to just be mine, because I don't know exactly how I'm going to go with that. Not that it really matters, but it does matter in a way, because I can be so easily influenced by what other people want, happy new year or whatever. But to me, it's a happy new, we have a happy new moment, we have a happy new, everything is new every second if we take the time to be aware of it.
absolutely. And that's when we talk about, it's great that you're bringing this up because this is where I wanted to go. So just so y'all know, Bev and I don't pre-plan our conversations. We don't have a topic. We just show up and start talking. So our spidey senses are working where we're tuning into each other, and this conversation is great. So yeah, so a new year could start really at any time for us.
Yes.
And that's something I wanted to talk about was, I haven't, to me, in my world, it hasn't been as prominent as it has in years past, where setting a New Year's resolution was the thing, right? Well, the end of the year's coming. I'm going to wait till the new year and start my new behaviors, whatever. I'm going to quit this bad habit, whatever it might be. So one thing is, recently I read, and not resolution means to solve a problem. Well, when we look at it that way, we're saying we're a problem and we need solving. We need to be fixed. When the fact is we're not. We're just where we're at with the information and knowledge that we have, and we'll do something different once we have more information, more knowledge, more wisdom. So thinking about a New Year's resolution, one, starting it at a specific time, January 1st, which is not true because you could start at any time. You don't have to wait till January 1st. It could be May 2nd, right? And that's your year commitment is going to start on May 2nd. So those two things, resolution, meaning something's wrong with me and I need to fix it, and a new year can be any time. So thank you for leading into that.
Oh, well, you're welcome. Which makes me think of when we do stuff like that, because then it goes back to even dieting. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I'll start Monday. I'm going to start this. And to me, what came to my mind when we were talking about this is quit putting yourself off. You freaking matter. Like, you're putting yourself off every time you say, well, I'm going to do it. The new year's coming up. I'll do resolutions because there's something wrong with me. Right. But all that time, you're putting yourself off that whole time. I heard a speaker say recently, I'm a full-time job. Like, I don't have time to worry about other stuff. I don't have time to try to control somebody else's stuff. I am a full-time job. And it's a true story. If you take the time and you're spending time and listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth, how are you creating? How are you loving? It's going to change everything. That's a full-time job. The other day I'm driving on the highway. I was speeding. Let's be real. But I had a person that came up behind, he was in the fast lane, whatever. So I went around him and got around. Well, he got aggressive after that. He got really aggressive. And it's like, why is it showing up in my experience? Because then he goes around me like I was speeding. Let's just say that. Well, he went above and beyond me, and then he slammed his brakes on me. Yeah. Then he puts his brakes on in front of me. And it's like my response, a lot of stuff was processing through my mind, how I could handle this or whatever. And then my chest didn't feel good, right? Those feelings that we get in our chest or in our gut. And processing it later was because I started thinking about the same thing, the same situation, and then the feeling rose up in my chest. It didn't go to my solar plexus. It went to my heart area, and it felt so dense, and it just felt so wrong. but I wouldn't have noticed that before. So it had nothing to do with the experience, because it doesn't matter why it doesn't matter. There's so many things. It doesn't matter what the other person was doing. It's like, why is it here for me? This is here for me. There's a bonus here. This is something. And this was my bonus. This is my bonus to recognize my heart. If we're leading from a place of love, and if we're focused on our hearts and we're doing everything from love, well, me to have a reaction to that behavior would not be in the space of my heart. My heart would not flow with that type of reaction, with that type of feeling. So I didn't. I just got out of the way, let him carry on with this stuff. And then he flew down the road, and I actually sent him a couple of prayers. He's good, because if he's that aggressive already, and he just left Nevada, I mean, I got a picture of his plate and everything, and I didn't do anything with it because like I said, there was more for it for me. This was for me. There was a growth for me. That's why it was showing up. When I went down and had to get a generator, we got a generator for the house. The guy scratched the tailgate of my truck with this thing. And I was upset about that. And it's like, wait a minute. And then it's like, well, Freeman's like, you want to go in and talk to him? And I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to, because I don't want to bring somebody else down. And then I realized, because it's hitting my heart again, it wasn't a matter of bringing him down. It was in my experience for a reason. This is for me. So it's for my growth on all this. To me, that's a glorious thing. It doesn't matter if stuff that's shown up, but it's brought me back to myself. It's brought me back into this heart space that I have spent a lot of time on lately, focusing on and wondering and asking questions, how I can feel more of these emotions, how I can understand my heart, how I can flow through from my heart for all things, and not have a judgment or an opinion about something, because I don't know what was going on with that guy that was driving on the road. I don't know. He just might have been pissed off. Someone might have died. He might have been in a hurry to get somewhere. Who knows? It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if it was any of those things, but it was for me not to hold judgment of it. And all I have to do is get over out of the way. I'm going the speed that I want to go to. It's all good. It was all good. It wasn't something for me to hold on to, but I definitely felt my heart and how that felt in that reaction or that interaction.
Yeah. And it's true when you say it's a full-time job. Like when I'm talking to people, I listen to what I'm saying more often than not. There are times that I'm just like, well, my mouth just runs. But that more often than not, I listen to what I'm saying and giving attention to how I'm feeling. And if what I'm saying doesn't feel good, I can recognize it very quickly. And typically when I'm saying something that doesn't feel good, it's because I'm just reverting back to my old self. And being aware, like consciously aware of what you're thinking, that in itself is a full-time job. It's like,
it really is.
Because we just have willy-nilly random thoughts. I remember Matthew, my son, was I think he was like preteen, somewhere in there, preteen. And he was sitting with like 2 or 3 or 4 of my friends, women friends, and we were just having a conversation. And afterwards he's like, oh my God, your conversation was all over the place. Like, and that's how we do, right? When we're having conversations, it's from one topic to the next, to the next, to the next, and we come back around and we go through them again, only having different conversation on that topic. And the conversation just flows. And it's similar to what we do. We start with a topic with our main conversation in the beginning, and then we just flow into whatever comes into the conversation. And I brought that into when I really gave conscious awareness to my thoughts, that's exactly what we do with our thoughts. We can go from, oh, I got to get the grocery, I got to get milk at the grocery store, to, I don't know, I wonder how Joe Blow's doing. I haven't talked to in 10 years. Right. And this huge span of thoughts in between. And where do they come from? And why are they showing up? And why am I thinking about this right now? What triggered me to think about Joe Blow? Right. And I'm just like, And when I really give attention to that and recognize, oh, well, when I had this thought about the milk, then I thought about this, and then I thought about this, and then I thought about the 50 other things in between that led me to think about Joe Blow. It's just so crazy. Which brings me to, it's important to be aware of your thoughts, because if you don't design your life, your thoughts will, right? And if you're living willy-nilly and you're wondering why your life still sucks or things aren't coming to fruition that you want, you're still struggling whatever the story is, well, it just comes back to, what are you giving your attention to? What are you thinking about? What thoughts are you having? Because really, having all those random thoughts is also time I can't get back. So it's undirected focus. And this pertains to those, whatever you want to call it, New Year's resolutions, New Year, New You, designing your life, manifestation. There's so many ways to refer to it. So when you are being lackadaisical in your life, meaning those moments when you're vacuuming or just cleaning the house, doing the dishes, doing laundry, driving, walking through the grocery store, like our brain, women's brains are all over the place, typically. But if you are wanting to bring something into your reality, it's a very very hyper awareness of thinking about and visualizing what it is you want. And that also goes with those habits. I'm just going to stick with New Year's resolutions for now as for the conversation. If that habit is to change or stop smoking, I'm just going to use smoking, stop smoking, then in your mind, you have to see yourself as a non-smoker. You're living life without any tobacco in your experience. And see that and have affirmations pertaining to that. And your affirmations may not even include the word tobacco or non-smoker or cigarette free. Like you would even most likely leave all those words out. I'm living a healthy life. My lungs are clear and healthy and strong. And I breathe deep, easily and effortlessly, right? Like all these things that pertain to your health and your body, and visualizing living your life without those smoke breaks, without going to the store and having to buy the cigarettes, without the thoughts of having to do it. It's like a complete change of mind and focus to help you accomplish what you want to change within yourself.
And I will just say, listening to your intuition, if you're listening to your intuition, it could guide you all over the place. Like if you're listening to your higher self, it could guide you all over the place, but there is a difference. There's a difference from being in the head all the time or being guided, feeling that guidance. Because I've been feeling, the more that I've been, it just feels like on the daily, I'm in more of this in-between place, that I'm moving around and stuff. And I noticed that I'm hearing the words that are coming out of my house or my mouth, my house. Well, this is my house.
Right. This is the house. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm
Makes
like
sense.
hearing the words that they're coming out, but it's like but it's also being aware that you can be all over the place. And on the positive, if you're listening to your intuition and your mind does go in that route, like it's from da 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 to Bob or whatever, it was meant to get to Bob in the first place, but it took you that long to get to there, and it's okay. So sometimes we have to be aware that sometimes that's the way we're being guided. So again, not looking that there's a problem. This is just like being aware. Someone was saying, going into meditation, they say to shut your mind down. They say, don't shut your mind down. Those are all the things that you want right now, because that's what's in your face right now. That's something that's one of those walls you're going to work past. That's why it's totally in your face right now. So it's not shutting it down. It's an awareness of it. which is freaking awesome. It is awareness. So I'm talking to a person calls me up, a client on a Sunday, and I'm like, I don't know if I was just going to see what the message was, because I didn't answer the call. And then she's like, hey, I've got this friend in California that his mom, she's 99 and she's having these problems and wants to know would massage benefit her. And she's like, all these things. And so I'm like, okay, I'll call her up and see how can I help? My mindset was different, because before I wouldn't even I wouldn't have listened to the message, because I was fighting for my time, it seemed like. And then I don't feel like I'm fighting for my time. I can look at it. And if it was something for business, it could wait till the next day, but it was something I felt that could be worked on. So I'm talking to her and I'm like, well, what's the girl's name? And she tells me her name, and I say her name and her last name. And I catch myself while I'm talking to her, I'm like really deep rubbing my calf, my legs and stuff like that, because she's telling me that she's having these pains. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, this is the awareness. I don't have to pull someone's energy in for Reiki. I used to do that stuff all the time. We've talked about that even recently. But I was just saying her name, and I'm feeling all this stuff in my body. And she was having pain everywhere. Well, I find out she's bedridden. I'm like, I'm picking up a spot in her head, and for me, it was like spot in her head. I got a spot. It's just a spot. It's a spot in her head. Like trying to rationalize it or trying to see what else it is that it's showing up. And she's like, oh, she just had a stroke 2 weeks ago. And like, she's telling me all these things that are happening. And it's like, I'm going through it. I'm feeling this in my body. What do I do with it? I don't know yet. I send love and light. And of course I look at the places where she's hurting, and I just focus on them for a little bit until it goes away. And then I go to the next place. Same thing I do on my own body. Whether it helped or not, I don't know, but it was just an awareness that was happening. And that's how easily we just kind of connect with people, and we don't notice it until you notice it. And until I had an awareness of myself, because it's the full-time job, that I'm thinking about somebody else, or I've just said their name and I'm just massaging my body, doing stuff that's like out of character. Like, why am I sitting there? Oh my gosh. And then I'm like, well, maybe she could benefit from someone rubbing her legs, getting some movement. She's bedridden, I find out. So it's like, find ways of, helping her to get some of those muscles moved around and stuff. But it was awesome, but it was, wasn't something I would have noticed before so quickly. It was so quick. It was so fast. Just from the time I said someone's name, that I'm already having a reaction. That's where we have to have an awareness. And then in that awareness, I could recognize where my pain is or my emotion is. And then it's easy for me to separate from that as well afterwards. It's really easy, because it was that easy to connect. It's just like hanging up a phone. Mm-hmm. It's done. And I didn't have that knowledge before. So there's a lot of stuff that's gained, but I'm just adding it to the conversation that you were saying. There's nothing wrong. It's slowing down. It's learning how to be more, just being. And we're going to be guided. I read something recently. Someone said, oh my God, my freaking higher self has me like all over the place, because it had her from one place to one thing to the next thing. And to me, that's awesome, because that just means that you're listening, and eventually that's going to slow down and be more productive, because you're just now hearing all the things that are coming to you. This is a wonderful place we're in. It's really uplifting. It just shows you how connected we are, how fast we can create something, how much we can help. And then it goes back to all the stuff we talk about, asking questions. Why is this showing up for me? Why am I feeling this person's pain? Why is this person driving crazy? Why did my truck, tailgate get cut, scratched or whatever? And it's has nothing to do with the other person. So there was no reason for me, even back to that conversation, for me to go in and bring somebody down when it wasn't his. I mean, I could have brought it to his attention, and I still can. Hey, it might be a little bit more cautious or aware of what you're doing when you're doing this, but if this was my experience, and then also how I was handling it, how are we handling those things?
Yeah. And I hear you on that. For somebody who was introverted most of my life, and it's still very easy to revert back into that behavior. It's when you're coming out of being an introvert, it's about learning to use your voice. So very early in my childhood, teens, young adult, like I always had, not always, very common, frequently I would have sore throats, bronchitis, always something going on in the throat area, which made sense. Now, so, and it could be, I could be a jerk about this and make this a big deal that you scratch my tailgate and feel like I'm standing up for myself and using my voice. But also in that comes, how much am I being and playing into my ego, which ego says I need to be right and you need to be wrong. Right? At whatever way that looks like. I'm going to prove I'm right. You're going to fix this. And, or using your voice is saying, hey, listen, you just scratched my tailgate. I just got this painted. You might want to be a little more cautious when you're doing stuff, right? And bring it to their awareness. So there is ways to use your voice in a healthy manner without, like you said, how does this feel when I deliver my words? And is this feel really heavy? Because anything that puts me in a position to say, or puts me in a position to feel like I need to prove I'm right, that doesn't feel good to me. And I listen to, I mention quite often, I listen to quite a few of different very successful business people, and they're always now what is being taught through these higher end coaches and business leaders. What is a win-win for everybody? How is everybody going to win from the scenario that we're about to embark on, step into, right? So how can I deliver a message that feels good to me, that I'm using my voice, and at the same time empower this other person to be better? Win-win, right?
Yep.
And it's up to them on how they receive the message, how they receive my words. And it's up to me of how I deliver them. And anytime, I want to go back to what you were saying, like all those thoughts where I said, I have to buy milk, and now I'm thinking about, I use Joe Blow, use it, Bob, it's all good. Whoever, Fred, right? That
Yeah.
it took, and it made me think, when you said that, it made me think that it took me to that position to think about Fred. And right, there's a reason why he's coming to my mind, whether it's Fred or Mary or whoever it is, that maybe just in that moment, even if I haven't talked to him in 20 years, maybe they just need a prayer in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Gave me goosebumps.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Confirmation.
Confirmation. And so maybe they're just going through something. Because I'm really good at that, especially with people who are close to me. I won't talk to them for weeks, even though we're close, right? You have those relationships where when you pick up the phone, man, you just talk like you've been talking every day for your entire life. And I won't talk to some of these people for weeks, and I'll feel guided to send a text or call them or send an email or some kind of communication to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. Just something uplifting. And 10 out of 10 times I get a response. You always know when to contact me. Right? So getting from milk to Fred means Fred needs a prayer right now because there's something going on in his life. Doesn't mean I need to call him. I haven't talked to him in 20 years. Doesn't mean I need to call him or look him up on Facebook or anything else. Just say a prayer for him, or whatever he's going through. I hope he's doing okay. Right? I hope he's getting what he needs to learn. So yeah, I just really had to go back to that because I was like, whoa, Bev, almost knocked me off my chair there.
But I do agree with you, because I do think we need a general template. I think we do. I mean, because it gives us a general plan. But in the midst of that plan, not controlling it so much, not that you were controlling it, setting resolutions or habits. Habits seem to be a better thing, a better terminology, it feels like to me, because it's just changing habits, right? But it's there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that's all good, but not shutting out. That's just like going back to the meditation and trying to shut off all those voices. Don't shut them off. They're there for a reason. This is part of your connection that's so valuable. And if you have all this voices and all this stuff talking, it's because you've needed to be heard this whole time. It's like all this stuff is going on because you needed to hear yourself. It wasn't that someone else needed to hear you, you needed to hear yourself. So it's just it's a fascinating process going through this stuff. I was listening to a video the other day also that was talking about, they're talking about the veil. Well, the veil is only your programming that separates you between yourself and everything else. It's programming. There is no veil. There is not, but it depends on your programming, how far away from it you are. That being said, I got my granddaughter here yesterday, and I have these decks of cards that were her grandpa's, and so she'll play with them. She's very meticulous with them. She'll take them all out, and then she takes them and stacks them nicely back into the container, and then closes it all up. And she's like, because I've got decks everywhere of tarot and oracle cards, and she's like, well, I want those cards over there. I want those cards over there. And then she wants these cards over here, and then she wants to handle them and move them around. Well, then she lays the deck in front of her. This is empowering, right? And she folds her hands in front of it, and she's like, Grandma, don't watch me. Okay. Well, I'm watched her because she said, don't watch her. And she rests her hands like, like this, and they're in front of the cards, and she closes her eyes. She's freaking 3 years old, for God's sake. She just turned 3. And then she's like, she says like 3 minutes or 3 months. I'm like, for what? And then she's like, well, that monster's going to show up. She sings. Just recently, she started seeing a lot of stuff. She sees a monster that's from what sees, it's not a monster. It's actually an Egyptian goddess or god that's like with her, which is crazy. But she's talking about these things, which is important for us to be paying attention to help empower. So we don't create that separation. We don't create a break in the veil because it's already there. And walking her through these fears that she's having. Well, is it hurting you? Is it trying to hurt you? Is it trying to do these things? And it's like, no, but it's scary. Well, because it looks scary because it doesn't look like us, right? So, I mean, it's just going through this there's so much things that are going on right now. And it's so great for me to get to see this behavior, because I don't do that kind of stuff when maybe her mom or her aunt has done that, around her, or they're slow and they take the time, but I'm like, oh yeah. And they do create oracle cards and tarot for toddlers. They do have cards out there for that stuff too, which is kind of cool. So that'll be the next process, but I'm just bringing that forward because it's just paying attention, and it's just keeping that separation, or making sure there's no separation. And not only is it helping her, and it's not because she doesn't have those tools, because she does, but she's learning blocks from other people, right? We learn different tools we have so many people that are around us, the TVs, the teachers at school, the peers at school, the parents, the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents. There's so many other people. So for me, it's like helping to nurture that space, but it helps me grow at the same time to see what's possible, because again, we connect so easily with people. We don't recognize it. And that connection's not a bad thing. That connection can be such a combining of experiences, that'd be like me connecting with you. I could connect with you with each one of your chakras. We could combine ourselves. And then whatever if you're a natural speaker and I was fearful of it, now I'm taking in some of your natural abilities. I'm fearless and I'm moving forward. And now I'm being able to go out and be that public speaker, which probably is a truth in a lot of ways. You have helped me in this aspect, because this would never have happened. That's right. Kudos to me. But it's true. So it's it's not a scary thing. And I think that's where I've been approaching things for a long time. I'm just working this out as I'm talking to you, because even working with clients, like, oh my God, like I'm going home and I'm feeling shitty, or I'm feeling this. And it's like, it made it feel like it was such a bad thing. But the flip side of that is there's a lot of positive stuff that we can pick up on each other. There's a lot of positive natural gifts that each of us have, that all of us have. And it's like reconnecting with that gift that you have reopens it within myself. So it's like it's been here the whole time, and it doesn't go away, it stays there. So it's such a blessing for me to be able to go do massages or have these conversations with you, which I've always felt that way. But like all these things, I didn't always feel that way about massage, because I felt like it was taken away from me. Well, and if I felt that way, that's because I was allowing it to take away from me. But now I'm learning that there's so much more prosperous information that's happening during these conversations, these connections with people. So this is just like, of course, I'm all over the place, but this is how I'm being guided too. So it's guided from one thing to the next, one part leads to the next. It makes sense to me. in my mind. I'm not saying that it makes sense to everybody else, but for me, in my experience, this makes sense. This is part of the process. And it's like such a beautiful connection all the time. And to me, that can go back to, it's like, even to child molesters or people that are attracted to children, recognizing that the attraction is this natural light, and there's other ways to connect with them that aren't harmful, and that it is in such a blessing of a way, you know, such a gift of a way to be shared, not something that's taken from somebody else. So it's like there's been confusion that's been created, I feel like, that's guided people to do some of the things that they've done, not recognizing really what was the ultimate goal or how it can be shared. Because to me, a sharing this way is like, it's a super high. This is because you're connected. Because I'm not just connected to you. We're connected to everything.
Yeah.
The creator.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, we talked about that not too long ago, that we have a connection to all knowledge and information, past, present, future, right? And I come back to business as an example quite often in what you're saying and channeling the energy, because in business, you know, when you're stepping out, one of the I think it's top 3 fears of the world is public speaking, or speaking in front of a group. And so it's many business leaders have talked about, look at these people who are more advanced than you in the world of business, and what you want to do, but you're not there yet because you're, whatever reason, you're holding yourself back, you have the fear, you know, you haven't learned to use your voice yet, whatever that might be. And channel the energy of the person that you want to be on stage. So if I want to be fearless and very confident and feel powerful, then I would channel the energy of Tony Robbins. I'm like, he is like amazing when it comes to stage. And then, you know, there's but he's very energetic and very high vibe, right? And then there's, you know, other people, like, let's say Esther Hicks. Even though she's channeling Abraham, she's very calm and delivers her words like precise. She don't repeat herself. It's a flow, right? And so there's all these different people that you can bring in their energy and see them, and it's one of those things. You know, they say, what would Jesus do? What would Tony do? What would Esther do? What would, you know, Dean Graziosi do? What would Zig Ziglar do? Right? What would Gandhi do? What would Buddha do? What would the Dalai Lama do? Whoever you want to bring that energy into yourself to be able to step into what it is you want to do. And we have access to all of it.
All of it, all the time. And it's like you said, it's just, the thing that's blowing my mind is because we've been talking about all this stuff for so long, and it's like, now I have a different perspective on it. That's all. Because we talked about even writing the book, right? Being in a certain energy because you want it to be received in that energy. So if I pick up a book, if I'm reading Beyond Past Lives, or I'm reading whatever it is, I'm connecting with that person's energy that put that book out. If I'm listening to a past life experience, or even what I like to do is really hear people when they talk about their near-death experiences, when they have these moments, because you feel their energy as they're talking about. You feel that you are automatically connected into this energy right now, and it's such a capability. And you have all those gifts too. It's just like if you wanted to hook into Tyler Henry, or, you know, any whatever you're looking for, and yours is business, because that's a natural draw for you, which is an awesome thing. For whatever reason, you thrive in that environment, that you love that, but that's your passion. It's just like the teaching thing too. So it's, for me, it's going to be so awesome to see, where do you go with all this stuff? Like,
Oh,
where, and there's no end up. I know there's no end. Like, I can't say where you're going to end up because you're never going to end. Right. That to me is like, it's just the progression is awesome because your focus is more business. It is more business. Before it was really all about teaching, and it still is. Because you hear, if I say something, you'll like, well, don't forget, this is the, remember this part right here from the teacher of you comes out, because that's a natural for you. It's natural. It's so awesome.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And it's everything I've gone through in my life and to bring me to where I'm at. I went through that part of learning to use my voice because of the introverted background to be a teacher, right? To be able to stand in front of people and speak confidently and not shaking in my skin.
Yeah.
And so I learned more of the spiritual aspects of teaching. Now I'm taking that practice into the business world. So in years past, in my younger years, I saw business as complete ego, complete dominance, complete confidence, complete, like clawing your way to the top. You got to be the biggest, the greatest. Like, it freaking scared the daylights out of me because being an introvert, that's not what I want. But since I went through the spiritual aspects and learning a lot in that topic, and then bringing that into business and learning to, and it goes back to Napoleon Hill, where it talks about all of this way before anybody was really ready for it, about manifesting, about focusing, about, being mindful of your thoughts, like all of it. I've read that book 3 or 4 times. And, but I had to get through what I needed to get through. So I had a different perspective about business. Right. So
Yeah.
it's always having to shift in order to go in a direction that you want to go, that feels good. Because the way I was perceiving business before, that didn't feel good and I don't want any part of it. Now, being a teacher, a coach, author, right, that I have a different perspective about business. I have a different perspective in how to move through it, how to utilize the tools to help it be of more ease and flow, right? Coming back to Abraham Hicks teachings, like incorporating all that and having fun being in business. Because I've owned a couple businesses where like I was the owner and I was the boss and I was the bitch. And I was going to be real. I was a mess. So I wasn't the greatest person to be the owner or the boss, because I was just a mess myself. And I still had a lot of anger in me. Now, being in the position I'm in with my business and being co-creating with the universe, I can co-create with other people as a team instead of looking at them as I'm above them and they're below me. Like, we're here, we're walking this journey, we're being creative, we're having this great expansion. They're going to grow in the process. I'm going to grow in the process. Like, it still can be fun and exciting and exhilarating and joyful. It's a matter of where am I with it? The universe has already laid the path, right? They laid the path from the get-go. But my crazy self decided to go in all these other directions. However, all those other directions have now brought me back to where right? And what is the path? Helping other people, being in service, loving others, loving myself. I feel everything that we do when we listen to what feels good is leading us to the path. It's a similar path for everybody, but we're all going to have the experiences in our own way. And it's being of service, being of love.
So something else I want to touch on that as you're talking, our passion doesn't always mean something that we like, because your passion before, you were passionately like, no.
Yeah.
Business,
oh yeah.
no. And that's something to be aware of, because that actually does help guide us. It really does. How many times this stuff we're doing right now? No.
I know.
I mean, there's so many times like, fuck. I'm telling, back then I was telling Jim, like, I am not doing this shit. Like, and yeah, and he's like, well, maybe you should think, fuck you. Like, why? Don't tell me maybe I should think about this stuff. Like, this isn't, I mean, I just can't even see how that's going to work out. But that right there is a statement I couldn't see.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't understand how that was how would that change, or how would that be? Like, how are we going to have these conversations? And here we are over a year later having these conversations. So, but what I'm bringing to people's attention is sometimes you're passionate. If you're passionately like, no, I am not doing that. Well, then you're going to be the person that comes in there and changes the way that it's perceived, because it doesn't have to be that way. I have a family member that's like, money is the root of all evil. He really thinks money is evil. Like, there's nothing that good comes from money. And I'm thinking, well, that's not true. You know, that's not
mindset too. So yeah. I can relate.
But it's like and he still says it, you know.
Oh.
And it's like, I'm like, but it's not. It's just a word. It's just energy. It's just like, what for me, like, another way that I get myself into a better space, if I'm in a bad space, then start thinking about, like, we're mostly water. You start thinking the word beautiful, and like, say the word beautiful to yourself numerous times, not with I am or anything like that, just beautiful. And it's like, what does that feel like? What does joy feel like? Saying the word over and over and over again. Because for me, and not like joy, no, but joy and like feeling it. Because for me, that's easy, because I feel words, I feel things all the time. I mean, this is me. If I read a story, it may take me forever to get you to that story, because I absorb everything that there can be absorbed in that book, in the messages that are coming from it. Because I'm feeling these words, and that takes me right into a different mindset. Well, that's the same thing that I was talking about. It's just having that, it's still more awareness. It all is. All of it.
Yep. And to imagine where you were in your thought process of, yeah, I'm not getting on a camera and having a conversation with Amie, and then it's going to be out there in the world and people are going to hear it and see me, and oh my, no.
And judge, right? And to be judged. Yeah.
Right? Judged, vulnerable. Yeah. And we had many conversations about it, and I just loved you where you're at. I'm like, okay. But that was also the universe working with me and through me to help you with your voice, right? And so again, we come back to, I was being in service to you to help you grow and expand in a loving way, never pushed you or pushed you out about nothing. I was just like, hey, what do you think about this? And you're like, okay. And off we go, right? I'm like, yeah, it'll work out. No worries. I was talking to the universe. I'm like, we'll get her. Don't you worry. We'll get her.
That's true.
Right. But the universe also working through us to, we are all earth angels as well. Like, we show up. It's no different than me thinking about Fred. In that moment, I'm being an earth angel for him to say a prayer. I don't need to know what he's going through. I don't need to know the story. I don't need to know anything. I just know he needs some kind of love. And I want to send that. So that's being of service and being loving. And so with collaborating with Bev, same thing. I was being an earth angel to help her in a way to help her grow and expand. And in collaboration, I'm growing as well, because we're having these conversations every week for an hour. It's like our own therapy session where we get to talk, we get to bounce off each other, and we're learning and growing from each other every week. One of us says something, we're just like, wow. We might even say something ourselves that it was like, wow, where'd that come from? Right. And we learn through that. And there's been many times where I'm like, wow, that sounded really good. I don't think I've ever said that before in that way. So it's like we're always co-creating with the universe to help others. It's not that, oh, I need to go tell Bev, we got to do this podcast thing. I had to have the idea from somewhere, because really I don't feel like it was my idea. It was like brought to me. And And who knows, we might do this for 10 years and we might do this for another year. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what's going to happen with it. There might be somebody who hears our podcast and says, man, I really want to get to know these girls. And then something might flourish from that, right? They're the earth angel to come in to help us grow and expand even more. So it's like being open to the co-creation of the universe and with each other.
Yeah. And then, but it being enjoyed, but I enjoy this, you know what I mean? So it's being enjoyed during the process, because that helps lead you to the next part and the next part and the next part.
Yes.
Because there's never an end. Like I was saying, I don't see where you're going to end up, because there is no end up. There's no end.
No, and you know what? I'm one of those people. I'm just like, I want to drag everybody with me. I mean, like, Bev, come on, we're gonna go do this. Get on my roller coaster ride. Let's go. Keep your hands and feet in the vehicle at all time, because this is gonna be exciting. And if you're like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. Okay.
Okay, well, I'll be back around in a little while. You can jump on then.
I'll see you down the road though, because I know you'll be hopping on soon.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So, and it's being playful and having fun with it, being creative. And you can do this in the midst of doing something that you don't like, right? So your job, you're not really excited about it, okay, but be grateful for it. We've talked about this many times. Be grateful for it. Be grateful for what that job's providing you. That job is providing you the funds, the income, so that you could take classes, so that you can get a certification, so that you can learn a new trade, that you can go to seminars or sign up for a 6-month program to help move you in the direction that you want to go. So yeah, it's all good.
That helps you in all relationships. And if you can do that, and sometimes it's breaking it down even further, right? If you're going to a place that you don't want to go to, you don't like it, you don't feel good, well, that's paying attention to yourself, having an awareness of it, that you know that this isn't the end all, right? This isn't where I'm going to end up. There's something much bigger than this. But then it's like getting ready for work and appreciating when you're putting your mascara on, or appreciating when you're brushing your hair, like really enjoying every moment, appreciating walking out and you can get in your vehicle and your vehicle starts and it warms up or it cools down or whatever you need at that time. And then you drive it. Like if you spend that time being in all those moments, those things that feel like they're so heavy and don't want to be a part of, you don't want them in your life anymore, it's gonna drift away. Yeah. Something new is gonna pop up because you're just appreciating. When you're at work, taking the time and really writing down what the stuff you're writing and being in that moment of really paying attention to how your pen's flowing or your pencil and how that's writing. Like it's being present in all those little moments, so you're not giving energy to something that you don't like. You're just being in the moment, and you're learning how to appreciate every little thing that you're doing, because there's things that you can be doing even at that place that you aren't happy about going to, that you can do that feel good, that you can put yourself completely into that being space while you're doing it. And then you start flowing. You just open up a gateway of all this freaking everything to appreciate, because the more that you're appreciating what you have in front of you, the more that's going to come to you for you to appreciate. It's a natural flow. That is the natural flow.
And I love that you just said, appreciate your mascara, because that job paid for that mascara, just saying. And so.
Well, true. That's true. And paid for that gas to get there, or paid for that vehicle that you have right now, or paid for your kids' braces, or, you know, I mean, there's so many amazing things. There are so many amazing things, and it's just changing the perspective. And that, like I said, that happens with everything. Everything is a relationship, whether it's a relationship with a job, your children, a friend, a spouse, whatever. You have a relationship with your vehicle. You have a relationship with the nature outside. We have relationships with everything. So it's just taking those moments to enjoy and appreciate all of that.
And so we come back to relationship, and the full-time job is the relationship with yourself.
Absolutely.
So here we will say it again. If you want something different, you have to be different. You have to think differently, feel differently, act differently, have for me, in my experience, because we talk about intuition and our spiritual GPS and all that. to me, so I'm going to say I have to have a spiritual connection. And I feel that it's beneficial for everyone to have a spiritual connection, whatever that looks like for each person. And that spiritual connection feels good, as we always come back to those words. It must feel good. If you're in some kind of a circle where people are being controlling, using spirituality as a way to control you and make you do things, then I'm pretty sure that's not going to feel good. If they say, well, you need to sign your vehicle over to support the group, and I don't think so. Nah, that's probably not going to feel good to me. However, I can have a spiritual connection sitting right here at this desk. I can have a spiritual connection sitting outside. I can have a spiritual connection sitting in the presence of somebody. So it must feel good to you. And recognize, and this is all internal, because those groups, and I'm just going to hit on this for a moment, those groups that are using spirituality as a means of control is because and I can speak from experience, not that I've been in a group like that, but just knowing how that feels, they're using the information that you want to feel loved and accepted. So they're pouring into you that love and acceptance to as a way to get you to do the things they want you to do. And so be very mindful of that. And this is why still we come back to, it is a full-time job to have a relationship with yourself. Love yourself, accept yourself, know you're worthy and deserving of good things. The whole package, it all starts right here. And so whether that behavior starts on January 1st, May 2nd, August 29th, whatever that looks like, sooner than later is better. Just saying.
Yeah. And if you think it's impossible, it's because you're spending way too much time on everybody else.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you think that's not possible to have that awareness, because I was, and that's how I can say that, then that means I was worried about everything else, or I was putting my attention on everything else. And again, worry doesn't feel good. Talking to one of my daughters yesterday, and it's like the conversation didn't feel great, and it made me start to worry. And it's like, but then I'm reminded, because my heart wasn't feeling good, and it's like, how am I helping this relationship? How am I helping my daughter if I'm in a space of worry? So then it was up to me to raise this vibrational frequency for me. So that means to be focused on my heart again. That means to have an awareness of myself and bring my energy back to myself. Because as we've talked about before, you cannot be angry enough for someone that's angry, or sad enough for someone that's sad, or poor enough for someone that's poor, or rich enough for someone that's rich. I mean, you just can't be those things. And it's where it's important for us to step into that power for ourselves. And the only way we can have that awareness is if we're paying attention to this job, to ourselves. Because before, my attention was on somebody was drinking too much, and we weren't getting along because this wasn't happening, or this wasn't happening, or whatever my expectations were, because they were my expectations. Now I can see everything from a bigger picture, but it's like that it was nothing to do with any of that stuff. My focus, the problem was all along, was that my focus was on everything else.
Right.
My focus was on how this person was treating me, how this person was treating me, I got to be right. Just like we go back to the conversation earlier, the ego steps in, and you prove yourself right because you're right, but you'll do it at all costs. And it's like, it's not worth it anymore. My peace is not worth me being right. It's just not.
And I just want to hit this real quick, that scratch in your truck could have set you up for the rest of your day. And that person who was being a hole on the freeway, that could have went from ugly to really ugly.
Oh yeah.
Because of a scratch.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Giving your attention to something outside of yourself. I just wanted to pull that out.
Yeah, no, but it's awesome because it's true. Or I could have gotten totally wrapped into that person's energy that was being aggressive and matched him. But I have an awareness now that that's not necessary. I don't have nothing to prove. Because I'm going to come back to myself, because it's in my experience for a reason. So this is for me to learn from right now. And it's not because I did something wrong and I deserve it. It's because there's something more bigger to be learned, more bigger, more to be learned from this situation.
And it could have, I mean, you were, because you were with somebody that you care deeply about. And if you gave your attention to this scratch in your vehicle that somebody else did and took that on, the time you had with this person that you love deeply, you wouldn't have been with that person. You would have been in your head thinking about the scratch, thinking about the employee who did it, and then on the road, and this aggressive person, you give your attention to that. Like, it would have been all out here, and this person is sitting right next to you, like, hello, I came to hang out with you today, and we're supposed to be having a good time, but where'd you go?
Yeah.
We sat next to each other, but where'd you go? Right?
Yeah.
Full-time job, my friends. This package, not my package, your package, but this is my full-time job of recognizing and what I'm thinking, feeling, how I'm acting, what I'm talking about. So that's your full-time job. That's your job. And that kind of sounds heavy too when you say it's a full-time job.
It does. It does.
I have since my early 30s, I have been so intrigued in learning how I operate, why I've done things the way I've done them, why I did things, why I just did the things I did or said. Like, how am I operate? I'm very curious about myself. And when things show up and I go, wow, still showing up like that. That's interesting. Or wow, I'm still saying things like that and it doesn't even feel good. Why did that even come out of my mouth? Right. I'm always intrigued with myself. Like, I want to, this is me. This is my friend because this is my best friend because this is who I'm going to be with. No matter where I go, what I'm doing, I'm going to be with me. And if I don't like what's going on in my head, and if I don't like the way I feel emotionally, and I was at this space at one time, I didn't want to hang out with me. Well, if I don't like me, why would anybody else like me? And so I've been very curious, and I think that's a really good word, is be very curious about yourself. So if there's any kind of habits or behaviors, patterns that you're wanting to shift, we're starting a new year, according to the calendar, that today, just start and be curious about yourself. Where did this habit come from? How did it develop? Why am I have such a strong hold on it? Why do I feel like it's so difficult to change it? Could it be easy, right? And this is where we get into asking questions. When we start asking questions, it's kind of like investigating yourself. I like that. I like investigating myself. And when we start asking questions, then the universe says, oh, well, here's a book on psychology. You may not read the whole book, but you might read the section about habits. Here's a hypnotherapist that has high ratings. Maybe go see that. There's information just starts coming, and that's where it gets fun. And this is where you co-create with the universe. Like, you're never alone in your journey, ever. I don't care how independent you think you are, because Bev and I hold the independent status of the world. I don't care how independent you think you are, you're never alone on your journey, ever. There you have the guidance, support, the help, the love, the acceptance. It's all there. It's to tap into it, receive it, allow it, and utilize it.
Just be in tune with it, because it's there. It's not going to go anywhere. No matter how bad you think you are or not, or how bad you're not. You know what I mean? None of that matters. It doesn't matter. But as soon as you tune in there, it's right there all along. It's always there to guide you. And remembering to ask for that help. That's the biggest thing. And if some of this stuff doesn't make sense to you, ask for your own guidance system to, help you understand life a little bit better, because maybe you like the way it feels, or just asking for the help. And it's sometimes just saying, I don't know what to do. And you don't have to say it to anybody. It's just that, like you said, it's an inside job. It's all inside. All of this is an inside job. And that, of course, go back to the word job. It's not, and it's an inside journey. This is my journey. This is me looking and feeling what I feel when I do things, or when things show up for me. and how am I going to change it? This is my campus.
That's good. This is my campus. I like that. This is my university campus.
Well, it's my universe for sure, right? It is. That we get to co-create.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, my friends, welcome to 2022, our first conversation for this year. And we appreciate your time and energy. If you're hanging out with us, listening to us, that's time you can't get back. So we are deeply appreciative that you took the time to listen to our conversation. We always hope that you get something beneficial from it, that something that we've said will help you on your journey. And we know that there are people in your life that could benefit from this information as well. So be sure to check us out. We're on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Spreaker, Spotify. So there's many platforms to find us on. So there's no excuse there. Just saying, there's no excuse. And then if you want to reach out to us through email, it's amieandbev@gmail.com. It's AMIEANDBEV@gmail.com. Any other word? Oh, and Facebook. We're on Facebook. Our Facebook friends are watching us now as we're recording this. And so we want to give a shout out to them as well, but we are on Facebook as well. So any final words?
Right now, I would say spend a lot of time with yourself, listening into your intuition. You got all your own answers.
Yep. And there's always lots of help available. Always. All right, my friends, make it an incredible week, and we'll see you next week.